ॐ तत्पुरुषाय विद्महे वक्रतुण्डाय धीमहि तन्नो दन्तिः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात्। ॐ जयन्ती मङ्गलकाली भद्रकाली कपालिनी दुर्गा क्षमा शिवदात्री स्वाहा स्वादा नमोस्तुते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Sairam Lyn, Sairam from Malaysia.
Sairam Sharma, Sairam from New Zealand. Thank you, Swami, for giving Sharma and I the opportunity to share more wonderful stories of life with you. And we welcome our lovely listeners as ever. We welcome you and we love your input. Please feel free to ask any questions in the comment center, and I will endeavor to answer them. Today's topic is Flying High with Bhagawan Part 1. No, I'm not going to talk about what it was like to fly in an airplane with Swami. I never had that blessing. But I am going to talk about an extraordinary experience that was related by one of Swami's students. Those of you who are familiar with life in the ashram will be familiar with the annual sports and cultural meet of Swami's University, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, which is held every year in the sports stadium on January the 11th. Now, in 2008, the Brindavan boys in Bengaluru wanted to present to Bhagawan a display of paramotors. And these are basically motorized paragliders. And one student was particularly excited he wanted to do this stunt, and he really wanted to join the team. Now, this student was very, very quite short in stature, and he was afraid of heights. But he was shortlisted for the event, even though he barely met the height specifications. Quite a tiny little fellow. And that year, motorbike sports stunts were part of the program as well for Swami. And many of his classmates told him, "Look, you better go for the motorbike stunts," because the paramotors team had many seniors, and they would be the most likely ones selected to perform for Swami. And any of you who have gone to Sports Meet Day know that these boys performed the most death-defying stunts for Swami. They jumped motorbikes through flaming hoops. They made huge human pyramids. I used to find myself hiding my eyes half the time I was watching Sports Day. I couldn't bear to watch some of these stunts that the boys did. However, this boy that I'm telling about, this little fellow, really wanted to fly in a paramotor. And he prayed so hard to Swami. He prayed, "Swami, you have brought me this far. I have been selected for the team. Please don't abandon me. Please, please give me this chance." And as he began to practice, he was remembering how that when he was a child, he was even scared to look down from where he lived. He lived on the 10th floor of an apartment building, and if he even looked down, to the ground, his whole body would start to shiver. But now that he was training in paramotors, he just loved being in the air. And so, after days of training, all of the Brindavan boys came to put a party, and they continued their practice sessions at the Sri Sathya Sai airport. And the airport is some distance from the sports stadium, as those of you who are familiar with the layout of Putta Party. The airport is just before you get to the super hospital. And so 2 days before the performance, Swami came to watch them rehearsal. And once the rehearsal ended, Swami looked at this little boy and said, "What do you want?" Ooh, the trick question. This is a trick question. And the boy said, "Swami, bless me with good wind conditions." And this was actually very essential for this stunt, because too much or too less air could make the whole performance a complete failure. And Swami blessed him, saying, I will give. And when Swami says, I will give, I can tell you from direct experience in the interview room, when he says he's going to give, he's going to give. And he's going to give in spades. He's not just going to give the item or the wish that you have at that time. He is going to give you a lot more wishes, a lot more blessings. When he says, I will give, you can jump for joy. But the boy didn't know this, of course. And so Swami looked at the instructor for the paramotors, and he said, and this instructor was a brigadier from the Indian Army, and Swami said to him, safety is paramount. Mind you, the landing conditions in the airport and in the stadium are quite different. It is important that the boys practice in the sports stadium as well. And another rehearsal was scheduled in the evening, as well as at the stadium. And Swami was expected to witness all of these practices. And he did come. And one by one, all the leaps were made, but the paramotor event was left out. And why? The wind was not good. And the instruction did not give permission to the boys to fly. But at the stadium, Swami was constantly looking at the sky. And the teacher didn't know what to do. And he said, Swami, the paramotor boys will start in a while. And if Swami wishes, you can go to the mandir, take arati, conclude the bhajans, and then come back. By then, the boys should be up in the air. And Swami said, yes. But before he got in the car, he said, he said, that is okay, but safety is most important. Now, after Swami left, the student was the first to take off from the airport. This is the little fellow. He was supposed to go up and wait for his partner, and together they were going to land in the stadium from the airport. And this is going to be the first time for the boy to land in the sports stadium, because he'd only practiced landing at the airport. And once he was up in the air, he realized Swami's words, landing in the stadium was a different situation from landing at the airport. So on one side of the stadium was a hill, and some little buildings are on the other side, and the wind would hit the hill and bounce, giving a lot of turbulence. And the paramotor could easily get blown off. And so anyway, the student is now up in the sky, and he's really enjoying the view. He's waiting for his partner to join him. And from up there, everything looked so beautiful. If any of you have ever been up in a hot air balloon or a small aircraft or a parachute or a paraglider, you'll know how beautiful the landscape looks. And the boy fell into a kind of meditational mood. And he thought maybe this is how God sees everything. And because he liked to sing, he began singing to himself, and he floated away. And suddenly he got a beep from the brigadier, and the brigadier texted him on his phone, I want you to locate the stadium. And when the boy looked down, he couldn't see the stadium. He didn't even know where he was, because he was so lost in singing and contemplating on the beauty of God's creation that he had traveled too high in the sky. I mean, it was during the evening, and the warm air from the ground had just lifted him up into like kind of a spiral. And he could see the statue of the 65-foot Hanuman that was near the sports stadium overlooking it. But the Hanuman was not even the size of his little finger. It was like a little inch tall. And his instructor was screaming at him, you're 3,000 feet in the air. You come down right now. You have no idea what you're doing. And so the poor boy began to reorganize his route. And he knew that he knew the route. He knew he had to fly over the music college and the primary school and the general hospital. But he was so excited to show off his talent to Swami, he decided to take a shortcut. And instead of flying the route that he knew, he turned above the primary school. Why did he do this? All he could think about was getting a pat on the back from Swami and a hero's welcome at the boys' hostel. So he was so excited, he veered the motor, and the next minute he found himself heading straight into the globe pillar of the Chaitanya Jyoti Museum, and his mind went totally blank. Collision looked inevitable. What to do? His instructor was yelling at him through his smartphone, "Increase the throttle, go high." And he acted just in the nick of time. Missing that pillar, he whizzed past it, and when he opened his eyes, the pillar was gone, but he was about to ram into the museum itself. His instructor yelled, "Take an under 180-degree turn." That's a sacred number, 180. So he did so, and he was saved. Finally, he's on course. He tries to relax a little bit and gather his thoughts. His forward speed was pretty high, and usually on landing, your legs can take 20 kilometers, but he was going about 40 to about 50 Ks. He was just crashing down. And when he was just 10 feet above the ground at the sports stadium, he remembered to put on the brakes so he could drop. But then a huge gush of wind lifted him up, and he fell flat on the ground. And the entire 30 kgs of equipment collapsed on him. Before anything else, he cried out, "Sai Ram, Sai Ram." There was total silence in the stadium. Everyone feared he had been killed, and some thought perhaps his spinal column would be crushed. But the only thought in the boy's mind was, "Oh my God, what do I tell Swami? How can I show my face to him? I've crash landed in front of him." So the teachers and everyone rushed over to him. He was alive, he was conscious, and taken to the general hospital. The doctors examined him thoroughly and declared, "Nothing wrong, a few little bruises, that's all." Now this is unbelievable. No sign of any injury or accident. Because the story has several more amazing twists and turns, I will record part 2. It is an extraordinary story, not only of love for Swami, of bravery and courage, of a boy who just barely made the cut to perform the stunt for Swami. And I can tell you, this is what happened with many of these boys. I was always so surprised that they would want to do these extraordinary stunts. It was their love and their faith in Swami that got them through. But this story has got several more twists and turns, so I will, as a good storyteller, leave my audience hanging until part 2. Om Shri Sai Ram.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Om Tasmat Karunya Bhavena Raksha Raksha Sai Ishvara. Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Sai Ishvara Arpanamastu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.